We all love e-commerce. It's become a normal facet in people's daily lives and daily routines. However, that also means thieves love e-commerce too. With many businesses adding online shopping options in conjunction with physical stores or even just going to fully digital stores nowadays, thieves have had to be a bit more creative. Enter the rise of cyber gangs. These are groups of people much like normal gangs that use technology and software for the harm and gain from other people. Whether that is through cyber attacks that slow you down, taking and sharing private information online, or more recently showing something called ransomware. Ransomware is a form of malicious software where cyber criminals hijack a user's computer or mobile device and keep it under their control until the user pays a ransom for its release. There are multiple ways in which the criminals go about extorting money from people. They use tactics such as encrypting saved files on the device, denying access to computer programs such as the internet, or even entrapping the user and linking them to illegal pornographic materials. These are the types of attacks that were used to cause havoc in the Colonial Pipeline attack earlier in 2021. This attack was one of the most recently and widely talked about major attacks by cyber gangs, and highlights both the rise and minor pivot towards infrastructure and not just individuals by these cyber attacks. Ransomware has grown strongly since 2011, but it's actually been around since the 1990s. These attacks used to be much like many other email attacks, but in more recent years, it's grown to be much more complex and complicated to battle. Tracking these gangs is also extremely difficult as they can be anywhere in the world. They don't have to stay in one place for very long. Or even be in a nearby location to attack you. Furthermore, they only accept payments in cryptocurrency, which is mostly impossible to track, covering their tracks even more. Many countries both condemn and have laws against cyber attacks and cyber crime. However, some countries like Russia, for example, don't have such laws. Thus, they've effectively created a safe haven for a multi-billion-dollar industry that's built on crime. To show this, the ransom paid for the Colonial Pipeline attack was $4.4 million for just the one single attack, as reported on Bloomberg.com. The attacks can be devastating to companies both financially and their reputation. These attacks will blast data from these companies if the ransom isn't paid in time. And a recent attack, covered by TechCrunch.com on NVIDIA, a computer component manufacturer, highlights this exact scenario. The attackers hacked in encrypting and stole files from an unreleased new graphics card, and as well as employee information. When the ransom went unpaid, they then leaked the information ahead of NVIDIA releasing it themselves. This isn't a single case either. This has happened to even other large companies such as Apple, with leaking out new descriptions of iPhones as well. These attacks can cause even more damage too. They can release confidential data, and these gangs don't shy away from things such as medical facilities. They'll attack hospitals, shutting down life-saving support, and taking patient files indiscriminately. They'll then blast that information on the web for all to see, which is a huge invasion of privacy. This is confidential patient information and doctor records and medical records. These attacks are extremely hard to combat, and the best weapon against these attacks is user training. Regular training on how to operate company equipment, the sites you can and can't go on, and the emails you shouldn't open as well. These tools have been known as the best defense against these criminals due to any software being hackable in some way. If they want in, they'll get in. And once they've been granted access to the system, it's hard to get them out. Now, no attack is fully able to be blocked out, but mitigation is the overall key. It is everyone's duty to fight against these attacks, and recently as well, the U.S. has formed a ransomware task force to track and combat these attacks. While the task force is still in its infant stages, it's been tracking and ramping up against these cyber gangs and cyber attacks. The task force is made up of 63 industry professionals, and was formed because of the steep rise in ransoms paid in the last year. In last year alone, the ransom cost for these attacks has nearly doubled in price. This, coupled with the fact that the gangs are attacking both infrastructure and delaying things such as life-saving medical support, is detrimental to societies around the world, and further puts the reason why we need someone to directly combat these things. Ransomware isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Unfortunately, this means the best thing we can do in the meantime is arm ourselves with the knowledge to combat these attacks. While they may target individuals less, that doesn't mean we shouldn't be less vigilant on our own computers. The best way to combat these attacks is self-policing, and be careful about what we do on our own and company devices.